Hi, I'm the Ba, or Ricky, two of my nicknames, and I had to combine them because neither one of them was available on YouTube. This is my cat Jack's tail. He's wanting his dinner. We'll get that soon. Anyway, on to the heart of the matter. As I see it, the socialist candidates lining up for the Democratic primaries in the U.S. for the 2020 election have spurred me to do this video, and maybe a series of videos. We'll see how it goes. I've been spurred to do some reading and rereading. Foremost in my mind is the quote from George Santayana: "Those who cannot remember the past are doomed to repeat it." I was never very good with history, but now that I'm old and retired, I get a little time to read and explore some of these things, so I'm really excited about this. I'd also like to preface my comments with this quote from Martin Niemöller, who served in the German Navy during World War II and subsequently entered a seminary. He later found out that he and other Christians were under surveillance by the Hitler government. He said this: "First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me." So, well, it mentioned socialists, but that's not totally on track with what I'm talking about. It's with this in mind that I feel that I need to speak out, because I don't want to be the one who gets backhanded by this socialist movement in the U.S. today. I don't know how serious it is, what a threat it is, but I see all of these Democratic candidates standing up and saying blatantly and openly that they are for socialism. I mean, this is not like the McCarthy era when people were trying to hide that they were communists or members of the Communist Party, so on and so forth. There's not even a witch hunt now for socialists, but instead it seems that the socialists are on a witch hunt for people who don't agree with them. And this is not the first time that's happened. I really hate the ideas in the history of socialism, Marxism, or communism, and think it needs to be stamped out immediately. I'm kind of new at this. I'm studying it, and I've read the definitions of socialism, communism, and Marxism, and the differences are really pretty fine point. All I know is none of them sound good, and they don't fit with the Constitution and the United States of America, built on liberty, individual freedoms, etc. So I'm next going to talk about are the experiences of an author who spent time in the gulags in the USSR for a period of time from around 1918, when the Soviets exterminated people in waves, an estimated 45 to 60 million people by the account of this author, although he believes that the slaughter may have been even greater. It continued to almost 1950. That's 9 years before I was born. I grew up during the period of time we still had the Cold War, the Berlin Wall, and there was always this, like, the big communist threat, which the Berlin Wall went down, the USSR was split up, but now it's like coming back. So what's the deal? So I'm trying to understand it, and I got a lot of reading to do in order to fathom this, but I'm just going to put my ideas out there, and I would really like people to watch this and make comments or contact me about information that I can then look up. Or you can look up and you can argue with me, or you can agree with me, or whatever. But let's get this thing going, because I think it deserves to be talked about. So, the book that I'm reading was written by a guy named Alexander Solzhenitsyn. In his book, the Gulag Archipelago was credited by some to have brought the Soviet Union to its knees. Pretty incredible, huh? It was published in 3 volumes, totaling around 1,800 pages in 1973. But I have been reading an abridged version that was published in 1985. It was approved by the author. Gulag, okay, the name of the book is Gulag Archipelago. Here it is. This is the version I'm reading. It's got a foreword by Jordan Peterson. Everything looks backwards here. I don't know what's that going on. Anyway, Gulag is a word for prison camp, where work was hard and conditions very poor. Before going to a camp, Solzhenitsyn was locked in a box with 3 men who could barely fit side by side to lie down and sleep. He says that at one point, a couple of the guys had like numbness in their arms and they all turned over together. Can you imagine being in a situation like that? Apparently the box was big enough for them to sit up in, so they sat up and talked the next day. And then someone else was brought in, so now they have 5 people in the box. Can you imagine living like that? It's ridiculous. Solzhenitsyn talked about how people were picked up and arrested, and most people were not even told what they did wrong. Anyway, more about that later. He did say, though, that he was arrested because he had talked to an old friend who was on the radar. Now, does that sound anything like the kind of stuff that's going on today? Now that we have YouTube and Facebook, I'm not on any of that anymore. I've given that up completely. So we're going with YouTube and we'll see how it goes. But can you imagine, with all of the surveillance and all of the technology that is going into monitoring your communications with other people, how easy it would be for a government to take actions against you because of who you talk to? Just look at the Mueller investigation and all of the press surrounding that and who talked to who and blah, blah, blah. I mean, they're not in a box with, 3 or 4 other people, but still, you got to admit, maybe in the future that could happen. We don't know. Anyway, when Solzhenitsyn was arrested, he did not cry out. He didn't ask for help or alert neighboring citizens to what was happening. He stated that sometimes the principal emotion of the person arrested is relief and even happiness. How could that be? This feeling was 1,000 times stronger during epidemics of arrests, when all around you they were hauling in people like yourself, and they had still not come for you. So imagine the apprehension that you would feel. They still have not come for me. So when I speak out, I have to admit, there is a little bit of a feeling now that they have not come for me. And I'm starting a YouTube channel with this video today after seeing many people being deplatformed, demonetized. So why am I doing it? It's because what I think that I have to say is important. And if you don't know this stuff, welcome. It's really interesting, and I would love it if you would have a conversation with me and turn me on to more things to read that will broaden my viewpoint and my point of view. Let's do it. Just put some things in the comments. My email is there. You can send me an email. Rikkithebah@gmail.com. RIKKITHEBAH@gmail.com. Bring it. So, Solzhenitsyn stated that his report was not intended to be political. His book, it wasn't intended to be political, but it was intended to be humanitarian. Now, we see today that the Democrats, socialists, are saying that they are concerned with humanitarian goals, and that the border problem that we have right now is primarily a humanitarian issue. Anyway, is it humanitarian to lock or to plain out shoot or kill through starvation or whatever a bunch of citizens who disagree with the government. So, 2020. Let's see, Bernie Sanders is in charge. I don't really think that Bernie Sanders wants to like shoot people. Really don't think that. However, it's the beginning of the slide. First you climb up, and then you go down. Where are those socialist Democrats going to be a few years from now when people speak up against them? Are we all going to just walk calmly to the jail without screaming that we're being arrested for no reason? Are we going to do that? Or is that going to be tried? Or are they just going to enslave us, take all of our money for their own use? Which is part of socialism. Anyway, what do you think? Is this socialist movement in the U.S. as being brought to us by the Democratic candidates the new way that will work? Or is it a path to genocide, oppression, theft, and slavery? I don't know. Let's talk about it. Again, this is the Ba. It's rikkithebah@gmail.com. Let me know. Give me a like. Give me a dislike. Give me a comment. This is my first video. Let's see how it goes. I'm going to have more as I work my way back through this book that I read in the 70s shortly after it came out. Oh, by the way, he also wrote a book called One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. Anyway, I remember reading that when I went to the Army in 1981 or 82. And actually got reprimanded for carrying a book in the pocket of my field jacket. That was pretty funny. But I read that book during that time, and now, 40 years later, I'm reading it again, and I'm really getting a kick out of it. I recommend it. Again, The Gulag Archipelago, Alexander Solzhenitsyn, the book that helped take down the Soviet Empire. Good night, and I'll see you soon.